stay in the middle. Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. I believe we're going to begin this evening with comments from two students.
Good evening from T.C. Williams High School. I'm Hannah Miller, a junior here at TC.
And I am Jay Falk, a senior and student representative on the Alexandria City School Board.
Thank you to all of the students, families, staff, community members, and others who have taken the time to be here tonight. Welcome to Congressman Don Beyer of Virginia's 8th District for being here tonight and being a part of this important conversation. And to Ted Deutsch of the 22nd District in Florida, where the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School tragedy occurred, for being a key participant tonight. And a sincere welcome to Mr. Fred Guttenberg, the father of 14-year-old Jamie, a Stoneman Douglas freshman who lost her life on February 14th. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight and for sharing your story and for bringing such a strong voice to this national conversation.
Tonight, we have the honor of introducing this important discussion about gun violence and the right to education in a nonviolent environment in our schools. When we see the students in Parkland, we see our classmates, we see our friends, and we see ourselves. As students, it is critical that we speak out and push for common sense gun reform, because those gun reforms might just save our lives.
Immediately following the tragedy, Jay and I began rallying our classmates and organizing collective student action against gun violence throughout the DC metro area.
We held a We Are All Eagles event named after the Stoneman Douglas mascot to honor the victims by wearing the colors of Stoneman Douglas. The event quickly spread throughout dozens of high schools and middle schools in Northern Virginia, Maryland, and DC.
Students from all over the region came together to make thousands of orange ribbons and take a stand against gun violence.
Since then, we have brought together student groups from across the region to join in collective action to call for common sense gun reform.
Tonight, we call on you to register to vote, join us as we march on March 24th, and speak to your representatives. Our promise to you is that we will not go away. You will continue to hear from us, the students.
We hope that tonight's discussion will add to a larger national dialogue that was born out of the Stoneman Douglas tragedy between survivors, their families, legislators, students, and all Americans.
We are very honored to have our own Congressman, Don Beyer, here with us tonight. Congressman Beyer knows Alexandria, and he knows our schools. He lives in Alexandria and has a grandchild at an ACPS elementary school. He is serving his second term as the U.S. representative from Virginia's 8th District, representing Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and parts of Fairfax County. He also serves on a number of committees, has been very involved in the fight against gun violence, and has encouraged bipartisan support for common sense gun reform. Please put your hands together for our Congressman, Don Beyer.
Jay, thank you very much. Jay and Hannah, you were eloquent, and I love the idea that you guys will always be there. You'll be back again and again. So thank you very much for the introduction. Thank all of you for coming out tonight, putting up with the traffic and the parking, and just for being here. I would also, we're going to get this in a second, but this comes together because my wonderful colleague, Ted Deutsch, who is a leader in the Virginia U.S. House in so many different ways. Among other things, he's the co-chairman of the Bipartisan Climate Solutions Caucus, which is 35 Democrats and 35 Republicans. But especially in the wake of the Parkland shooting, he has redoubled, quadrupled his efforts to bring common sense gun safety measures. And I don't think there would be 8 or 100 or 1,000 of us here tonight without Fred Guttenberg, who shows the incredible courage, the ability to choose life over a devastating grief with the loss of his daughter, Jamie, who comes here to inspire all of us that we really can make a difference. Fred, thank you very much for being here. Let me also just thank the Alexandria Public Schools for rocking and rolling and adapting so quickly, from Minnie Howard to D.C. Williams, and especially our interim superintendent, Lois Berlin, for hosting us. We're joined by the school board chair, Ramey Gentry, vice chair, Cindy Anderson, school board members, Ronnie Campbell, Veronica Nolan, and Margaret Lorber, Fairfax County School Board member Young Moon, and Arlington County Board, she's Ben chair, but Libby Garvey is on the Arlington County Board. So, anybody who says we can't do anything is wrong. I have a long, long list of very constructive, comprehensive pieces of legislation that Ted has introduced, I've introduced, many good people have put in, that we can't get a vote on in the U.S. House or the U.S. Senate. They would totally change the landscape of how weapons work by banning assault weapons, by closing the background show loophole, by banning high-capacity magazines. I've been working really hard for 2 years now on the gun violence restraining order, which simply allows family members or law enforcement to put somebody on a background checklist to get the restraining order if they're in a clear mental health crisis. I know mental health issues touch virtually every family, and there's probably every one of us has been in a situation to have a cousin or a child that is in a position where they shouldn't be getting a gun. And this would give us the ability to do that. Look, we're going to have, this is mostly tonight about a town hall meeting. We really want to hear from you. And we're going to do a microphone over there and a little line. So please please respect the fact that there'll be a lot of people standing behind you when you get the chance to talk. But before we get that, let me please introduce my dear friend and wonderful colleague from Florida, Congressman Ted Deutsch.
Thanks. Thanks, Congressman Beyer. Thank you very much. And your constituents know this better than anyone, but your congressman is not just thoughtful, he's not just active, he's not just involved in every issue, but on this issue in particular, on preventing acts of gun violence. Don Beyer's gun violence restraining order efforts will change the way things work in this country and will help to save lives, and we all have to work together to make sure that we pass this important legislation. And I just want to take a minute to thank all of you. I want to thank you on behalf of the community that I represent. The fact is that since the Marjory Stoneman Douglas shooting, the response from people around the country has been remarkable. And it's been remarkable in part because of the interaction between people like you and the incredible student survivors who have taken the lead in changing this discussion in a profound way, who have simply pointed out what all of us know, which is that, number one, weapons of war do not belong in our communities and we should ban them. That we should ban high-capacity magazines because no one needs to fire off 30 or 100 rounds in a row, and to require that everyone have a background check if they're going to buy a gun. Now, before I turn it over to my friend Fred, I want to just acknowledge someone in the audience tonight who is a former constituent of mine, who is herself a victim of gun violence. Kate Ranta, who is down here. Kate is here. She has become an advocate for taking meaningful action since her own gun violence episode, which she may talk about later. But Kate, I want to thank you for turning your experience into action and passion. I want to just say a word about Fred, and then I want to ask you to do something for him. This has been as difficult a moment for our community as I could possibly imagine. But it has also been remarkable to see the grace with which families who have lost a loved one in a school have responded to their grief. And Fred Guttenberg and I have gotten to know each other pretty well over the past few weeks. And Fred, on behalf of his daughter Jamie, has brought to all of you and has now taken to Congress a passion for change and for action that will make all of us better and stronger and safer. And Fred, we appreciate that. And before we turn it over to Fred, I want to do one more thing. If you are a student here tonight, can you stand up? And stay standing. Stay standing. And if you are a parent who believes that when you send your student to school in the morning, you have nothing but the absolute right to be certain that your student will come home at the end of the day, can you stand up also? Fred, I want to thank all of you. And I want to say in front of Fred that with all of you and the activism and the passion in this room, which we have seen in high schools and community centers and public gatherings all across the country, which will peak for the moment on the March for Our Lives on March 24th, which I hope you're all participating in, that with everything you're doing, we will stand up for our kids. We will push back against the gun lobby. We will change the laws to keep us safe. Thank you for your leadership. And ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Beyer, it's my great honor and incredible privilege to introduce one of the really greatest guys that I've had the privilege to meet, who is unbelievable, and I'm so thrilled that he's here for all of you, Fred Guttenberg.
Thank you so much. Is this? Wow. 3 weeks ago, I was just Jesse and Jamie's dad. This is unbelievable. I don't want to make anybody feel weird, but what you're going to notice tonight is I don't sit when I discuss this. And let me tell you why. Every time one of these incidents happens, the conversation afterwards is always way too polite, way too comfortable, and way too temporary. I will always be respectful. I have no need to be polite on this, though. I don't want to make people comfortable when we talk about it, and I'm not going away. This will not be temporary. Thank you. So I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about my daughter and that day. 3 weeks ago on February 14th, which was Valentine's Day, a day of love, it started in my house like any other, with a lot of chaos. We were making sure the kids got off to school, and all of you parents probably are saying, yeah, that sounds like my house. And as usual, they were running late. My dogs were barking, and they needed attention. My wife and I needed to get ourselves ready for work. That's what I remember about that day. It's what I can't remember that is still haunting me to this very moment. And this is the part of the speech that I still struggle with. I can't remember if I told my daughter that morning that I loved her as she ran out the door to leave for school. I can't remember if the very last moment that I saw my daughter, if I said, I love you. My kids left for school that day like any other, and only one of them would make it home. My daughter Jamie was murdered, or as some in the pro-gun community like to say, these guns are used for hunting. My daughter was hunted at school. My daughter was the toughest person I know. She fought for her life until the very last second, running down the hall from an active shooter until, boom! A single shot to her back severed her spinal cord. On Valentine's Day, the last day I saw my daughter alive, I can't remember if I told her that I loved her in the morning. My family's forever changed. I'm no longer just a dad to Jesse and Jamie. My wife, who is intensely private, not only lost her baby girl, but it happened in a way that was horrific in public. In life, I always used to tell my wife and my kids that as long as I wake up in the morning and those I love and care about are safe and healthy, and we go to sleep at night, and everyone is still safe and healthy, that it's a good day. Everything else in between is just a bunch of stuff that we have to get through, that we have to manage. Unfortunately, we've been having some bad days. Jesse, who is my son, and my wife Jen, and I will have to go on without Jamie in our house. Our family and friends who lived for her voice and her spirit will not feel it ever again. It's going to be different. Her humor, her craziness, her energy, and her feistiness will be missed. My baby girl was the energy in our house. She was the energy in every room that she ever went into. And our new normal is going to be a lot quieter. I will miss the sounds of her laughter and what she used to call her dog talk, don't ask. Her unbelievable ability to never stop talking and how quickly she would say things because of how much she had to say. They were the sounds that gave our life meaning and our house its energy. Jamie lived life. She was the energy in the room, and she always made her presence known. Jamie was also a competitive dancer. It was her passion. 2 weekends ago was the first competition of the season. Always an event in our home and something that we all looked forward to. Rather than being a competition weekend with Jamie, my wife and I went to visit her at a cemetery. The day after this murder, I attended a vigil in Parkland. I was asked if I wanted to speak, and I said yes. I had not prepared, but I ended up having a lot to say. It was the beginning of my public life. My life is now forever changed, and my public role continues to evolve. I've dedicated the rest of my life to fighting for the cause of gun safety. I'm not going to stop. No other parent. Just looking at all of you parents here, no other parent should ever go through what my family and 16 other families from Parkland are now going through. What is unfathomable is how this is not unique to us. This has become something that was becoming way too common. This time, the gun rights crowd messed with the wrong community, the wrong kids, and the wrong dad. My kids, they were everything to me, and I intend to be a part of breaking the gun lobby. There are simply too many shootings and too many losses of life for us as a civilized society. Over my crash course this past couple of weeks, I used to be just a dad. A couple of things have become clear to me. The gun lobby simply has too much influence over lawmakers regarding decisions on our safety. The gun lobby uses the language of mental health and the language of paranoia to incite and scare people into the belief that they need to have guns, and any attempt to put normal limits on that, as we would with anything else, is the start of a government overreach that must be prevented. As these kids from Parkland who I have fallen in love with say, I call BS on that. I have quickly come to realize that most legislators are not leaders. They follow the mob and the money. It is clear to me that even though we elect our lawmakers with the expectation that they will be strong leaders, most of them are followers. The gun lobby talks about the Second Amendment. I happen to believe in the Second Amendment, just not the bastardized version presented by the gun lobby and expressed by the lawmakers who follow it. Unfortunately, this bastardized version has led to these weapons of war, being widely available, and as a result, my daughter has been murdered. She had rights as well, including a right to life, a right to be a believer in the Second Amendment, and all of her rights have now been terminated. We cannot allow a gun lobby who truly believes in no limits to control the decisions of lawmakers, as no other person should be afraid of getting shot for simply being in school or some other public place. Because our lawmakers will not do the right thing out of fear of the gun lobby, we need to break the lobby. How can we do? So how do we do that? We pierce the aura of strength and we take away their money. In Florida, even after this mass murder, too many legislators were opposed to any real gun legislation, and they were bowing to the gun lobby wish. However, I'm pleased to announce that this afternoon, in Florida, a state that this never would have happened in before, the minimal effort, but yes, gun reform legislation did pass. The only reason that the gun lobby would be opposed to the most minimal effort that was proposed in Florida is because it pierces the aura of strength that they have. Once legislators start approving gun lobby legislation, they will see this as a loss and know that other losses will follow. The most significant hits to the gun lobby, though, are being driven by corporate America, and they are being heroic. Absolutely, corporate America's been great. They are doing two things, and they need to be rewarded for this, by the way. First, they are terminating direct business relationships with the gun lobby to end financial benefits to the members and weaken the lobby financially. Second, they are ending the retailing of weapons of war and simply not waiting on lawmakers to change the age to 21. They're doing it themselves. Mutual funds are also reevaluating their portfolios and may remove any businesses that has anything to do with the manufacture or sale of these weapons of war. Present company not included, shame on weak-kneed lawmakers who can't come to common sense measures as well. Corporate America will lead and show you can take on the lobby and not pay a price. Legislators will watch and eventually follow. In addition to changing the gun culture in this country, again, an effort being led by corporate America, but one that I predict legislators will follow, we need to get the NRA to open its books. We need to show America where they get their money and where it goes. People need to understand that the NRA effort is not done with the safety of Americans as its main concern, and most likely has a more concerning purpose. This will not be easy, and it will take time. I have an idea that ensures gun owners get to keep their weapons and does not infringe on their rights, but yet the NRA would be dead against it. Why don't we force every gun owner, in addition to background checks, we should have them register, license, and insure every gun that they buy, just as they would a car. The insurance on these weapons of war would be so expensive they just wouldn't buy them. It would also help to make sure the process of owning a gun includes the same responsibility that you and I all take on with everything we do, whether it be drive a car, go to the pharmacy to pick up a prescription is more difficult than buying these guns. Tell me how that makes sense. Now, we know the lobby would be against these common sense efforts, and so would the legislators who support the lobby. This alone gets to the BS about it being a Second Amendment issue. As the kids from Parkland say, we need to call BS on that. Anyone in this room who has a legislator that will not vote for your safety, when you vote, you need to fire them. Finally, to the kids in this room, we love you. When you think we parents, we do, when you think we parents are overprotective and trying too hard to control where you go, who you go with, what you do, and when you do it, well, the truth is we are, and it is because we love you. We have a relentless need and desire to keep you guys safe, to keep you away from tragedy, and to make sure we get to hug you and kiss you when you wake up in the morning and when you go to sleep at night. Hopefully, you will understand why we parents do what we do, and you'll say thank you to your parents tonight. To the parents, hug your children every chance you get and tell them you love them every chance you get. Could be the last time. Make sure you look at their face every chance you get when you say I love you and when you say goodbye. I can honestly tell you that I am not sure I did that the morning Jamie was taken from me, and it's killing me inside. Take every chance you get. Real quick, I noticed, and my heart is bursting, that I see all the orange ribbons. And I want to just tell everybody about the orange ribbon and what it means to me. My daughter was a competitive dancer. Her dance teammates, they were her sisters. Orange was her favorite color. And in her dance studio, they all started wearing this orange ribbon to honor my daughter. There was a very famous choreographer who's involved in all the Broadway shows and the TV shows who actually did a guest teaching at my daughter's studio, knew my daughter, and she posted it, and it went viral. It ended up going around the country. Broadway shows started dedicating nights to my daughter, and they all were wearing the ribbons. And it turns out, as I learned last week, orange also happens to be the universal color of gun safety. So I want to make this ribbon a symbol of gun safety. I want everybody to go and embrace this ribbon and wear it and show that you stand for common sense gun safety. You do not stand for the BS that is being taken, that is going through DC now, and that you want to see change. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, we would like to hear from you. So we have a microphone set up here on your right. Paul is coming up right away. Okay.
Before we do this, the fire marshal is asking if we can have folks please allow those who are standing to take seats. If you can move to the center of your row if there are any empty seats so that those who are standing in the back can be seated. Thank you. Kate?
And as our questioners come forward, Fred, as the father of four, I'm sorry that you're not sure whether you told Jamie you loved her, but I'm pretty sure she knew.
Thank you.
We will try to field your answers among the three of us, but we're
Okay,
not going to give you three answers each, and we welcome you, so please begin.
Hi, my name is Kate Ranta, and I too survived a shooting in Parkland, Florida, but at the hands of my ex-husband 5 years ago. In November 2012, he stalked me to my new apartment in Parkland and shot through the front door behind which my father and I were standing, and our then 4-year-old son. I was shot twice, and my father was shot twice, and my son witnessed the entire incident. Thankfully, we all survived the attack, and my ex was sentenced in Broward County to 60 years in prison, so he's going to die behind bars. I moved back to Virginia a year and a half ago, and the irony is that had I actually stayed in Parkland, my son would be attending the elementary school up the street from Douglas and would have been a Douglas graduate. But now he's a third grader at Patrick Henry Elementary School right here in Alexandria, and he'll attend T.C. Williams. So I'd like to thank Fred Guttenberg for his immediate bravery and advocacy to stop gun violence, all while mourning his beautiful daughter. And I'm here to tell you that I've been in this fight for 5 years. I stand with you, and I'm not going away either.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank the Parkland students and the ACPS students who spoke tonight, and all the students across the country who are motivated and making a difference in this fight. Like I said, I've been in it for 5 years, and I've never seen anything like this. So it's very inspiring and hopeful. And I'd also like to thank my friend and former Congressman Ted Deutsch and my current Congressman Don Beyer for being ahead of this and fighting for gun safety for years. I know you guys have been at this for a long time. Keep going. So just real quick, together we can achieve gun control and can end this scourge of violence that's become an epidemic in this country. My family and I stand with Never Again, and I promise you, you will see me run for something in Alexandria.
Yeah.
And I think Ted and I would agree we need more women in public office, so thank you. Paul?
It's a great honor for me to be here tonight. My name is Paul Friedman. I'm the executive director of VTV Family Outreach Foundation, the nonprofit created by the families of the victims and the survivors of the Virginia Tech tragedy about 11 years ago. And I wanted to start tonight by expressing our family's love to your families on behalf of our organization. In fact, sadly, our president and his wife, Joe Samaha and Mona, they lost a daughter who was also a lover of dance. She was a dancer at Virginia Tech, and all of our board have a connection. The reason I wanted to get up here as well is to just share with you that our commitment has been towards trying to fix what went wrong there around the country, which is to make sure we get every name into the background check system of people who have been found to be a danger to themselves or others and have been committed or required to get treatment. There's a legislation, as you know, Congressman, in the Congress right now that's being considered the Fix NICS Act of 2017. Even if it passes, and it's a bipartisan bill, but even if it passes, it still requires the governors and the legislatures in every state to do a full investigation and participation in getting their names into that system. And it's voluntary on the part of the states. It cannot be compelled by the federal government because of a constitutional, a Supreme Court decision that was 5-4 with Scalia as the leader of that decision. So it's critical that even if that law were to pass, and it's still up in the air, that we get every state to do this. And finally, I just want to share with you all that I'm very honored that the city of Alexandria is working with us to create a memorial tree garden, a tree grove, right next door at Chinkopin Park. We'll be planting, coincidentally, it's very soon, it's April 29th, 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. You're all welcome to join us to help us plant or participate and be around to watch it. Delegate Chris Hurst will be one of our speakers. I'm sure you're familiar with his story. He represents Virginia Tech now. And so we're very honored to do that. We also have, Virginia Tech has a graduate school here, landscape and architecture program, and their students have designed the memorial. So we're very pleased to have this as a joint effort of all these three. So once again, we want to express our wishes to you, our heartfelt sorrow to you and everyone in Parkland, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, sirs. I'm sorry if I'm a little shaky. Mama, I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
I know loss. My name is Laurie Hamilton. This is Skylar. I had this really large article that I will be sending to you, Sir Byer. She's 20 now and nonverbal, and we've been here for 6 years. My mother was born here, and I'm from Richmond, and I've gone through, shall we say, a struggle here, and in silence. And I thought that, the shooter had autism, and I know the struggle for the families, and everybody's looking for a scapegoat. I know the life of a scapegoat. So I've been fighting for Skylar because I found no justice. I got my master's degree to be a teacher, to be the teacher that I never found. My bachelor's in psychology, so I should be able to contain myself. But for the past 4 years here in Alexandria, we've been alone and isolated. And we've been, living a false narrative. My family is all military, and I found that the founding fathers are my people. They wrote the doctrine, and people say that I'm crazy or whatever, but truth is truth. And parents, we suffer, and we suffer with you. 2 years ago, I stood at my dad's grave on Quantico Hill. Hoorah. Her father is a major in the Army here at the NSA with Fort Meade. My whole family is military, So I'm a single mom. I know the shame. I know struggle. And I know as a community that we've been ostracized into the pocket of poverty that I've been fighting for the kids and the families alone. I've been studying for the bar to follow in the footsteps of the people that you guys are supposed to have, because the lawyers and everyone that shunned us. I'm not shaming you guys. I want y'all to understand that y'all think that mental health, that we all struggle. We all struggle with you. We mourn as a country and a world. And I wish I could be more eloquent, and I won't break out into dance, and I will thank Lin-Manuel for telling me, keeping my spirits alive. And I really didn't want to show up today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing your daughter with you tonight. So.
I will be on the fight with you. Hopefully, Obama, your cuz. that I'm finding out that a lawyer will come to my aid. Until then, sir,
Thank you.
you'll hear from us, okay?
Thank you.
We're going to do this together, even if you guys, we're doing this alone. Know that Skylar is love. One more thing, please. As a psychologist and a cheerleader and a coach, fear. Okay. Why fear? The pen is mightier than the sword, right? So, you could either forget everything and run, or what? You can face it and rise. And we're going to rise together, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For everything, sir.
Hi, my name is Laura Sonnenmark. I'm in the Northern Virginia chapter of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. Along with my sister, Moms Demand Action, love you guys. We are part of the Virginia Coalition to Prevent Gun Violence. Okay, so every 14th of every month, the 14th of every month, we have a protest, vigil at the NRA headquarters in Vienna, or Fairfax. We have been doing this every month on the 14th since Newtown. The 14th is a monthly anniversary of Newtown, and I'm sorry to say it's also the anniversary of Parkland. So it's 10 o'clock in the morning on a weekday on Saturday every month, and then on Sundays it's at 2. Sometimes there's maybe 50 people, sometimes there's hundreds and hundreds of people, sometimes there's press, sometimes they're not. I think this month it's going to be quite busy. It is completely safe. The gun nuts do not show up. You don't have to worry. There's policemen there to protect the NRA, because I have been trying to get arrested. I can't tell you how many times. I cannot get anyone to arrest me. So I hope you guys will, you can check us, it's on Facebook, the North Virginia chapter, Brady Campaign to Prevent Guns Violence, plenty of places other. The Moms Demands know about it. So every month, NRA headquarters, 10 a.m. And we'll be there next week.
I just want to confirm. So it's a week from today, is that right? At 10 o'clock in the morning? All right. Okay, I'm gonna rearrange my schedule. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hey, guys.
And by the way, before you start, Laura, who just spoke, has been a hero for a long, long, long time on gun safety issues. So thank you for being there before all of us.
Hi, my name is Naomi Wadler, and I'm a student at George Mason. Me and my friends have organized a walkout for our school on March 14th.
Good work.
Some of the staff, including our principal, haven't exactly agreed or thought that it was safe. Now, I think that it is completely unacceptable that we are not free to exercise our right to be safe at school.
I agree with you. Naomi, do me a favor. Tell your principal to give me a call.
It has been of concern of some of the staff that we will not be safe on our own school lawn. And I encourage them to tell us how we will be safe in our own classrooms, in the world that we live in now, where it's okay to walk into a store with an expired ID and buy an assault rifle.
You go.
So, Congressman Beyer, Mr. Guttenberg, anybody who wants to come, I I invite you to come, because I'm sure we'll be safe with any of you here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi.
And I hope that when I am older, that when I am in middle school and high school, I will not have to worry about going to school and being shot in my own classroom.
And that's why we're here for you tonight, because this is going to change. I'm with you.
Naomi, we need to know what time we're walking out of school.
10 a.m. 14.
Well, Ted's going to be at the NRA. Maybe I'll come walk out of school with you. So.
Thank you.
You're in a dangerous position there, sir.
Hello. My name is Craig Olson, and I want you to know, first of all, that I walked here all the way from Arlington County. But as one of the other people in this room knows, it's not a long walk. That's Libby Garvey. Libby is a member of the Arlington County Board, and she actually lives in Arlington County, obviously, also, but she lives closer than I do. It's a very short walk. But what I wanted to do, if you don't mind, is introduce an argument that I've never, ever, ever heard from people who are, of your mic, and that is people say, well, we need more gun safety, we need better gun laws, but I still believe in the Second Amendment. I'm sorry, you should not. And why is that? A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia. How many states have militias these days?
You're right.
Maybe 2 or 3? In 1791, when the Second Amendment was adopted, there was not a standing army, there was not a standing navy, obviously not a standing air force. The only way that we had to protect ourselves against invasion from other countries was a militia. And that's why the people needed to keep arms, so that the militias could be brought up to protect ourselves. That's the reason for the Second Amendment. It's right there in the words of the Second Amendment. That is no longer valid. And therefore, at least I think you can make the argument that the Second Amendment is no longer valid either. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
A quick comment, too. Judge Scalia, of course, was a famous original intent justice. Well, the original intent was the weapons in 1791, you had to load one bullet at a time. Yeah. One of the recent Supreme Court justices said we should amend the Second Amendment to say, while serving in the militia. And that would change everything. So.
Hi, my name is Barrett Fife, and I'm a senior in high school. I'm going to break tradition with my predecessors and ask a question for the gentleman on stage, although I do think it pertains primarily to the elected officials. So something that has made the post-Parkland movement so powerful is the work of thousands of dedicated citizen activists, especially young people and students. Moving forward, how do you plan on continuing to work with these people, your constituents, beyond speeches and words and actual physical action, engaging with these people, even when the heat dies down and Washington attempts to move back to the way things were before?
One of the things we promised the Alexandria public school system tonight is that this was not a campaign event, that we weren't giving political speeches. But what we are going to try to do, though, is to ask our young people to be politically engaged. Because it's who our elected leaders are, Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, that make the difference. So as you know very well, because this is a great political activist here, it's a senior at Georgetown Visitation, right? Is that we are going to try to continue to get young people to vote, young people to knock on doors, young people to elect political leaders they think will reflect the common sense gun safety measures that we want.
Yeah, I would actually quibble a bit with the end of your question, because I actually believe firmly, more than I ever have before, that because of the activism of high school students and college students and the way that the Stoneman Douglas student survivors have so inspired the country, that we will not go back to the way that things have always been before, that we won't allow the issue to simply go by the wayside. And I would relay one story. We had some of the students in the Washington area last week, and they did a program similar to this in a high school with 800 kids, all high school students. And one of them stood up on the stage and pointed out to everyone in the crowd that the data shows that new voters who have just turned 18 and registered to vote, actually go out and exercise that right to vote. They participate in elections 1 out of 5 times. 1 out of 5 new voters actually goes out and votes. And as he then posed the question to the crowd, which I think is the answer to your question, what if that number were 4 out of 5 instead? That's how things will start to change, and we need to work to register those voters so that they can do that.
Thank you so much.
And I want to say something to you as well. Because I can tell you, the kids from Parkland and me, we're not going anywhere. So today, I had a chance to actually testify in a subcommittee appearance put on by the minority party, the Democrats. They kind of asked the same question as you. How do we keep this going? And especially considering, as they said, they are in the minority and they don't get to schedule hearings. And my answer to them, and I will hold them to it, was minority or not, you have a job to do. All you need to do is from outside in, go ahead and schedule hearings in a conference room at a Marriott hotel and all go meet there and bring the media. But have your hearings. You don't need an official hearing to make a difference. We, the people, need to pressure our legislators to go ahead and put our safety first. And those who won't, and those who don't want to, and those who want to take money from the NRA, not directly, because as they'll say, oh, we can only take so much. There's all the indirect money that gets spent. Fire them. Go ahead and work against them.
Thank you so much.
Can I share one piece of information just in case people don't know this? The March for Our Lives is in Washington, and I'm sure
Nationwide.
It's
going to be all over the nation.
Right, it's in Washington. But you should know that there are now nearly 500 locations around the United States and around the world where people will be marching on March 24th. That's also how things will change.
Hi, my name is Alex Mandanis.
I'm Kimya Shirazi.
And we're juniors at McLean High School. Thanks. So last Thursday, we organized a walkout at our school, and our goal was to incite political change. And we tried to follow the rules of our county, and it was extremely challenging, and they ended up disappointing us.
So we didn't expect our administration to be completely backing us, but it was especially disappointing to see that they were adding additional obstacles in our way to keep us from having one. I began working with Virginia Democracy Forward, and they helped me actually get Kate Ranta, who was supposed to speak at our walkout, and the League of Women's Voters, who was going to make an appearance to teach kids how to register to vote, and they actually didn't end up letting either of them come. And we tried our best to meet with different people. We met with our superintendent. We met with our regional superintendent. We were meeting with our principal every day, but they just kept giving us the same answer, that your walkouts are interrupting instructional time. And I don't understand how missing class for a walkout is a bigger interruption than a shooter coming into a school. And I won't go into the details of everything that they told us, but one thing that I wanted to share is the day before our walkout, when they suddenly canceled everything that we had planned, we still did end up walking out, but a lot of things they'd canceled. Thank you. One thing that our principal told Alex and I is that the kids from Parkland wouldn't want us walking out,
Wrong.
that they would want us to be staying in class and to just do the one walkout on March 14th and to stop having so many spontaneous ones throughout the week. And I just wanted to come up and say this because I know that these kind of things that they say to us are just to prevent us from doing so.
Well, you have a bunch of school board members here listening to you this evening. And one of the things I'll tell you as an older person is when you get to be our age, you're not going to remember that hour of instructional thing you missed, but you'll always remember the walking out. Just throw a little Martin Luther King Jr. at him and you'll be fine, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Richard. I live down by the Eisenhower Metro. I mean, I think gun control and better services for mental health are complementary and should be addressed at the same time. I mean, I know our Republican friends don't like government funding healthcare, but I just thought I'd come and just bring that up and ask for you to ask for it. I mean, I think this a statistic I heard is that around 2/3 of the gun deaths in the country are suicides. So I would like you to maybe talk about, what parents or teachers can do for kids now that they feel are troubled and need help, and maybe ways we can improve. Thank you.
Let me just, Fred, do you have anything?
No, listen, I think any common sense effort to address the issue of guns and violence must include an honest effort or honest discussion on the issues of mental health and funding it. And so you're 100% right. There's a lot of silly talk, but you have to be able to talk about it and to put the money behind the effort. And so I think you're 100% right.
Let me give you one other perspective, that 2/3 of the gun deaths last year were suicides. 44,000 people took their lives in 2016 in the United States. I met this afternoon with Dr. Josh Gordon, who's the head of the National Institute of Mental Health, with a Republican from Syracuse, with Ted and others. We put together a suicide prevention task force. And the most important thing is to try to identify somebody who is at risk of suicide. And the head of National Institute of Mental Health said the single most important thing is just asking the question, do you feel like you're a danger to yourself or others? And training every emergency room doctor and nurse, every pediatrician, every family practice person to ask that simple question, because then it changes the whole dynamic and most people can be saved. So we will continue to do that and continue to put research into it.
I would just quickly add that I agree. Mental health has to be a central part of this conversation, but it needs to start with the understanding that if we're going to address mental illness in the country, it has to. We have to understand that the way to do that is through care and not to demonize people with mental illness. That's a really important way to approach this.
Good evening. My name is Ebi. Hi, Mr. Bayer. I'm here tonight. Sir, I'm so sorry for the loss.
Thank you.
As a father, I don't even know how you go through the days. So I'm here just for a few words of support for our congressman, for you, sir, and for the country as well. So this is a great country with strong institutions, strong military, strong police, and a constitution that I believe 100% will never produce his or her majesty in America. The question is why our citizens are encouraged to arm themselves to the teeth. I am sure a lot of us know the answer. The number of gun victims may end up equaling the number of guns. Then at this point, don't we see a problem? We live in a very stressful society, filled with depression and anxiety, just to name a few. When you have this little arsenal in your home and things go wrong with your head, we know what this little arsenal will be used to do. Then, when the tragedies happen, for some of our leaders, the protection for guns will come first. It is sad. We are at a very dark time of our history, and something needs to be done, and it is now. Today, the founding fathers, if they were with us today, as smart as they were to put together the Constitution, they would do something at this moment about what is happening. But unfortunately, they are being used today as a scapegoat, the Constitution especially. Gun owners have to pay some form of insurance, as our great friend here said. And maybe they may need to turn in the background of a criminal background every 2 years. That will be a good thing. That will be, at least it will give us a chance to know what is going on in their lives. This is a great country with great people. We can change this. Let's not let ourselves fooled over and over again. I think the time is now. This is an awakening, sir, and we'll have to stand together to fight forward.
Thank you, Abby.
We have a lot of people in line, so just want to remind everyone to try and think about the people behind you. Thank you.
I'm Mike Nagel from Arlington County, and my question is, the president had never wasted an opportunity to use a tragedy to scapegoat a marginalized group. And recently he suggested that the closing of mental institutions had something to do with this tragedy, which is not supported by data. And so I'm wondering if, Congressman, if you will, condemn his remarks.
I will.
I don't know. I'm not used to condemning his remarks. Yes, absolutely.
Make it 3 of us.
Let me just say this. Gun violence is not a political moment. And so when it is used as one, it infuriates me and enrages me. The day my daughter was buried, there was a presidential tweet tying my daughter's murder to the Russia investigation. I was enraged. The moment in the White House last week where they all sat nicely around a table and lots of promises were made to everybody, right? And then a day or 2 later, reneged on in a tweet. Those who make this a political moment, we work around them. We go around them. We can't count on them.
I'd just like to say a word about why things are different this time, and why, frankly, the media hasn't entirely caught on to that. And that's the fact that the president sat 2 seats away from me in the White House and repeatedly talked about the need for universal background checks and banning bump stocks and making sure that people with histories of domestic violence can't get access to guns and finding ways to take guns away from dangerous people repeatedly. And I understand it was an hour. I get it. We all watched the DACA discussion and we know what happened after that. I understand that. But the fact that that happened and then the NRA tweeted that they met with the president and essentially everything was off, and that was breaking news, that somehow, because the NRA says that they met with the president and so this isn't going to happen, we're not going to forge on to pass meaningful gun safety legislation, everyone's tendency was to just go back to the way things were before. But let me tell you something. The guy at the NRA who tweeted that has about 9,000 followers. Emma Gonzalez has over 1 million followers. That's why things are going to be different this time.
Young man, I think you're up.
Hello, my name is Henry Gibbs, and I also attend George Mason Elementary School. And the day after the shooting happened, I was watching on TV, and I heard about the shooting. And what was going on in my mind was, again, like, this has been happening all across the country, and it's because of the magazines and bump stocks that allowed him to fire off so many rounds, and that's what happened in Las Vegas too. And yeah, I think it's crazy how you can just go into a store and buy something that can kill many people. I think it's just wrong.
I think you're right.
Simple eloquence.
Good evening. My name is Marissa Roinstead, and I'm with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Mr. Gutenberg, I want to start with you since the moment I saw you on CNN. And I can't cry when you can hold it together. I haven't stopped thinking about you. I hope you know that our constant thoughts and prayers for you are genuine. That said, we're going to keep going, sir. We're going to keep going.
Thank you.
Congressman Beyer, I'm a very proud constituent, and I know you know one of Moms Demand Action's greatest concerns is concealed carry reciprocity. And I was wondering if the congressman might be willing to speak to that point this evening. Thank you.
Well, it's crazy. I was in the Virginia General Assembly. I was lieutenant governor in 1995 when Virginia passed its concealed carry. And it was a big fight, which I lost. But at least at that point, you had to have hours and hours of training. You had to have background checks. They had to be approved by the Commonwealth Attorney. And now with this concealed carry reciprocity, it means anybody from any state, including one that has no standards whatsoever, could have the recognized concealed carry in a place like Virginia. It's completely wrong. We voted against it, Ted and I both, in the House. I don't know where it is in the Senate right now, but we will continue as legislators to fight what is clearly very bad legislation.
And the only other thing I would add is, as we look for ways to go forward with meaningful gun safety legislation, the fact that the president looked at the sponsor of the concealed carry, the greatest advocate for concealed carry in the House, at that meeting at the White House and said, this cannot be part of this. We're not doing this. This can't be part of the bill. Look, I understand that everyone needs to do their part to ensure that what the president said in that meeting for an hour is actually what he thinks today. But the fact that it is on record is really important. The President of the United States, here's something, right, that I will acknowledge. I don't say this on a regular basis, but the President of the United States was exactly right. That is a terrible bill, and it should not be part of anything that goes forward in terms of gun safety. It will make us less safe and less secure rather than more.
You see why he gets invited to the White House, right? So.
Good evening. My name's David. I live up here
up the road. I have something to say, but before I do, I was really touched by what you shared with your daughter. And I can't do anything to bring your daughter back, but if I can give you something, it's to say that love doesn't live in the words. She knew.
Thank you.
She knew that you loved her. In an effort to try to do something useful in all this, I did something that I think not a lot of people have done, which is I spent 2 hours reading the NRA's magazines. It's called America's First Freedom. It was somewhat nauseating, but I did learn some things. And I wanted to share with you some of the things that I learned, because it occurs to me like part of this problem is that we're all in a filter bubble. Everyone here tonight probably agrees with each other, and all the people we need to convince probably aren't here. This is a fairly progressive area politically, but down below us there's a whole sea of people who don't agree and aren't going to be easily convinced. So some of the things I learned from these magazines, first of all, anti-gun groups like Moms Demand Action and Everytown have almost no members and are almost completely created by ghost enrollments. Yeah, it was news to me too, but I'm just sharing with you what I learned. Another thing I learned is that this is all part of a greater political agenda, right? To not only take away your guns, to take away your children, to take away your freedom, but I'm really serious. I mean, this is what's in the magazine. Attacked specifically by name in the magazines: Chuck Schumer, George Soros, Rachel Maddow, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, Amy Schumer, who's apparently a cousin of Chuck Schumer. I didn't know that. But the point I'm trying to make here is it literally said that you and the NRA had saved America from a conspiracy hatched by George Soros and Hillary Clinton. It said that in the magazine. So the reason, yeah, one other thing I was really surprised to learn, apparently public confidence in police is at an all-time high. Contrary to what you may have heard on the media, 85% of whites and 75% of African Americans have high confidence in their local, just things you learn. Anyway, my point is that there is a group of people out there who live in this information world, for whom this is real. This is total truth. How do we reach those people? How do we change those people?
And I want to take this on, because that organization that you're talking about also happens to be a tax-exempt 501c3 organization, and that needs to stop. They are a political organization. Within the week after my daughter's murder, we did that CNN town hall, and the next day was CPAC, and Wayne LaPierre and Dana Lausch were talking there. And all through the weekend after that, it was driving me crazy, the words that they were using and the things that they were saying. And it hit me, and I talked about this on the following Monday. I think I was on one of the news programs. 20 years ago, I used to work in pharmaceuticals, and I used to work in the area of mental health. And I used to sit with psychiatrists and listen to patients talk about delusions and paranoia. And that's when I realized that's the language that they use. It's delusional. And yet it appeals to the fears of people that actually believe that there's a government conspiracy that if you put any limit, it's going to come to take their guns. It's going to come. The militia is coming. You know, it's delusional, okay? And yet, this organization, which, by the way, just put out a video 2 days ago, basically calling for action, armed action, against elected officials who don't believe in them and media who don't believe in them, okay? If any terrorist group would have put out that video, we would be raising the terror threat. And this is a tax-exempt organization. We need to pull that, okay? That's number one, and that's where you guys come in.
Thank you, David, very much.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Jim Clausen, and Mr. Gutenberg, I would like to offer you my very sincere but wholly inadequate condolences. I cannot
Thank you.
imagine the pain that you and your wife and your son are going through, and I just pray that me or none of us ever have to go through that. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
My question or comment is for the congressman, and I wholly agree with everything you've said about long guns and bump stocks and high-capacity magazines, military-style rifles. But I wonder if there's a chance, and somebody else brought it up earlier about concealed carry, the pistol, the handgun, is still the #1 killer in firearms in America, according to what I've read, statistically speaking. Is there a chance, or is there any legislation going forward to reduce the number of handguns in circulation? Because when you think about suicides, accidents, robberies, murder for hire, you name it, it's the handgun that predominates in all those. Maybe not as spectacularly and as volume number-wise as these military-style rifles, but is there a chance to get some real meaningful control on the circulation of handguns at this time? Thank you.
I would respond just this way. First, the legislation that Congressman Beyer has worked so hard on gun violence restraining orders doesn't just apply to assault rifles. It applies to any gun that could, any gun, because if someone is at risk of harming himself or others, their gun should be taken away. That's number one. Number two, we have to look. The fact is that when drugs are being taken into a neighborhood, into a city to be sold from another place, when there's a conspiracy to do it, there are laws to take them on in that way. The fact that guns are trafficked in communities all throughout the country. By the way, I'd point out, because we hear this all the time, people talk about Chicago, and Chicago's got the toughest gun laws. Look at all the violence. Well, look at all the violence because of the guns that are both brought in and the gun stores that are available right across the border. We need to take a harder line on those who traffic in guns, those who bring those guns into our communities. And the last thing I'll say is there are efforts, I have one and there are others, that aim to help get guns off the streets through the program like the one that exists down in my community, their gun buyback program, to try to make sure that we're doing something to take some of those guns off the streets. Those are all happening. Those efforts are underway. At the same time, we focus on the fact that it is weapons of war that are used in these mass killings. And if there is one thing that we can do right now, it is to capitalize on the fact that the overwhelming majority of people in this country understand that weapons of war should not be in our communities. We need to pass the assault weapons ban even as we take on the greater scourge of guns and gun violence.
And three quick comments on guns. Number one is 96 people die every day from gun violence in the United States, and 7 of them are children. So getting gun safety locks to keep kids from shooting kids, the little kids, will be incredibly important. Somewhere down the road, after we get this other agenda passed, we will be thinking about guns that are personalized. The one guy that tried to open a gun store with personalized things was immediately driven out of business. But if only you can fire the gun, that changes it also a great deal. So.
Hello, my name is Esther Massey. I'm a former teacher, and I hope to God that you will not allow weapons in the classroom.
Agreed.
Having been a teacher, I understand the pressure that kids can put you through and drive you to the edge, even though you may love them to death. You might want to pull a gun on them someday. I'm sorry, it just happens. It gets bad. And number two, I'd like to point out that the Second Amendment is a 18th century law governing 21st century reality. And the NRA likes to talk about the possibility of tyranny. I studied Russian and German, so I understand tyranny. and I also lived in the former USSR. Tyranny is not the gun registration, it's your neighbor that says his mother was a Jew. That is tyranny. I'd also like to point out that I had a brother that committed suicide by gun. I knew the signs. Being a trained teacher, I knew that. It was hard to ask, are you going to harm yourself? You never want to believe it's going to happen to you. I just have to say, it will happen to you as it has happened to you. And I also think that people that are going around talking about being able to defend themselves and shoot someone in their own defense should talk to somebody about the trauma of having taken a life. Because it's not as easy as somebody thinks. They're not John Wayne, they're not Rambo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jill Hoffman. I'm a resident here in Alexandria. First of all, I'd like to say, Mr. Guttenberg, earlier you talked about your daughter and that she was always the energy in the room and that you're going to miss that. Well, if it's any consolation, she's provided a lot of energy to this room tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think she's going to be providing a lot of energy, and that will be her legacy moving forward.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think it's a fact at this point. I just wanted to offer an additional perspective that has somewhat been raised here, but I have a little different angle, and that's mental health. Congressman Beyer, you said at the top of the program that all of us have probably been touched by someone who's in our family who has mental health, has a mental health issue, and I definitely associate myself with those comments. But I also know what it's like to commit that person. I know what it's like to fear that that person is capable of hurting somebody else when they're not in their right mind. When they're in their right mind, they're not. They're perfectly safe. But when they're not in their right mind, you don't know what's possible. And I know what it's like to call the authorities and try to get help. And how limited your options are. And how you might get a temporary, they've committed temporarily for 3 days, and then they're back out. Or they might have to go to a judge for a period of time and be required to take medication. And then that period of time is maybe 6 months, and then it continues. And so I don't have a solution for the perspective that I'm offering, because it requires money, and it requires a meaningful discussion about all the things that we've talked about here today about mental health. And I associate myself with all the comments that have been made about guns. And by the way, I come from the rural South where everybody in my family probably, I think, does own an AR-15. I know very well about that culture, and I know about the conspiracy theories that I hear from my family members all the time who all think I'm some liberal nut, which is funny because all my liberal friends think I'm a Republican. But anyway. But I just wanted to offer that perspective because I think as we have this conversation, this national conversation about how we address the problem and the core problem, that even the conservatives who are not in what we like to call the gun nuts in my household as well, so I appreciated that comment earlier, that those voices do not represent even all conservatives, and that there is common ground here. And one of those areas of common ground is to have a meaningful discussion about how we get a hold of the mental health issue, how we start early and we go through the preventative measures, which is why I've been a sustaining supporter of the Sandy Hook Promise since Newtown. And so I just offer that today for your perspective and consideration.
Can I just let her know that that next week in the United States House, legislation that Sandy Hook Promise, that is essentially written with the help of Sandy Hook Promise to provide resources to schools to help identify warning signs and to help ensure that this issue of mental health is going to be front and center. That legislation will get a vote on the House floor next week. It's a really important, small but really important step, and I appreciate you bringing them up, and I just wanted to let you know that.
And one more thing as you go out, this is a subject for a different town hall meeting, is mental health in general. But the Treatment Advocacy Center in Arlington is a wonderful resource for trying to figure out how we change laws to make sure that we are protecting people before they get to the point where they're about to kill somebody else or themselves.
Hi, my name is Gabby. I was born in 2000, a year after the Columbine shooting. And so growing up in America, I heard about gun shootings almost yearly. And so after the Vegas shooting, only I think a month before the tragedy in Parkland, I felt, after reading the news, desensitized to the incident. And I realized how dangerous that is, that after that incident, people forgot within maybe 2 weeks. And so standing here today and alongside some of my high school friends and seeing even an elementary school student, the brave Naomi and her friends, I think it's so sad that we even have to be here, that an elementary school student should be at home in bed or taking a bath or something, getting ready to go to bed. But I just wanted to ask a question that me and a couple of my friends in this organization called Young Democrats had organized a protest a couple weeks ago, and it was very successful, and we're planning our next one in a couple weeks. But we wanted to not only make statements and speeches, we wanted to get something done. We wanted to have a mass calling to elected officials and congressmen. And I know Don Byers is an avid supporter of gun control legislation. So what I wanted to ask was, who are the people that we need to put pressure on? Because I'm ready to fight. Like, I'm tired of this, so. Whether it be the NRA or elected officials in other states, who do we need to put the pressure on is my final question.
Well, there are 7 members of the Virginia congressional delegation who vote wrong from our perspective on guns. And you call our office, we can tell you which 7 they are. Those are the offices you want to deluge with phone calls. And as Ted knows well, we do pay really close attention to who's writing us and who's calling us. We add the numbers up and try to make sure that we're not in a completely different place than the people we're supposed to represent.
We did tell you this event would end at 8:30. It's 8:35, so we're going to take 3 more questions.
Hello, my name is Jorge Sanchez. I go to Wakefield High School. I'm the president of the Young Democrats at the high school and also a member of Students Demand Action. So after the shooting in Parkland, Florida, the Young Democrats knew that we needed to do something. So in a matter of 3 days, we started working on our walkout. And it was successful. It was incredibly successful. And as a student, I want to know everything that we can do to continue fighting until we don't have to fight anymore. I want to know everything, not just like what's enough. I want to do everything I can, not just enough.
Thank you. Listen, my advice to you as a non-political person is keep calling and emailing and writing your political people, number one, but keep calling all of the businesses that have any role in this fight and tell them you'll either spend more in their business or you're going to cut them off depending on how they conduct themselves. And I'll give you an example, okay? Amazon has not yet ended their business relationship with the NRA, so I've ended my business relationship with Amazon, okay?
Thank you very much. And we should move on. We have a couple more young men and women to hear from.
Hi, I'm Hudson. I'm a sixth grader at George Washington. This is my brother Duke. He's a seventh grader, same school. And so I remember the days of the shooting and the days after the shooting. So when the shooting happened and when it hit the news, I was at after school play rehearsal and, reading the headlines, and I was like, that's just awful. And in the next days, I was just always hoping that these kids would come together and do something. Because before we had Kentucky, and before we had Las Vegas, and Virginia Tech, and Sandy Hook, and Columbine, and after a while, what's enough? So, I remember one case particularly, Dick stopped selling assault rifles, and that was just awesome.
Thank you, Hudson.
So I'm Duke, Hudson's brother, and I've always been sort of the scientist in our relationship. So I wanted to ask, I know right now there is legislation the NRA has lobbied for that keeps people from finding the truth about the gun violence in America. And I want to know if you would support legislation so that they can uncover the facts and stop allowing the NRA to hide behind lies.
That's a great question.
You probably know it's the Dickey Amendment, and the person who sponsored it, Mr. Dickey, regrets that he sponsored it. And now there's two good pieces of legislation that would repeal it and allow the Center for Disease Control and allow the National Institute of Mental Health to study.
Every time there's any sort of epidemic that plagues America, I come from Florida. When Zika was front and center in front of us, every person wanted the government and scientists to do as much research as possible to be able to come up with the steps that could be taken to ensure that nobody contracts Zika. The Centers for Disease Control, the United States government, should be able to conduct all of the research that's necessary to make suggestions so that no one should ever be a victim of gun violence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The NIH spent $6 billion a year on Ebola research, and 1 American died of Ebola. And we lose 38,000 a year to guns.
Hi, I'm Quinn Beatty.
Hi, my name is Matthew Heckel. I'm Carter Anderson.
I'm Sullivan Beatty.
We all go to George Mason Elementary School.
We came here to talk to you guys about how we have planned, a couple of fifth graders in our school have planned a walkout on March 14th, and we've struggled, but we've just kept fighting, and yeah.
Congratulations.
Hi. I just wanted to say that this is real and we can't hide it from other people, and some people need to wake up to reality and not let people that don't have background checks or mental ill just walk into a store and buy guns.
Well, I would like to ask how there has been 173 school shootings in America since Columbine, and how America has allowed many young children and young adults to be able to buy these guns and walk straight into the schools and just start shooting at kids.
Thank you.
Well, thank all of you for your
just
eloquence.
There's no good answer. There's no way to respond to how has it happened. Going forward, the question is, will we be smart enough and brave enough to follow your lead to make sure that it never happens again?
Young man, you are the grand finale.
Hello, I'm Cody. I go to school in Arlington. And I think I speak for everyone in here, particularly students, when I say that I don't want to be shot and killed. And if I were a parent, I wouldn't want to send my kid to school and then not ever see them again. And I think that it's the responsibility of everyone, including students and politicians, to act upon this and make sure that it never happens again.
Cody. So, thank you for saying that, because the only thing I did on February 14th is I sent my kids to school. Every day going forward, everything I do will be to make sure you go to school and you don't worry. Now, as a kid, to all the kids in this room, because all of us parents, we probably have a lot of issues that we think are important, and that influences who we vote for. There's nothing more important than the protection and the safety of our kids. So, if you want to start in your school, some of the kids in Parkland actually created a contract that they're having their parents sign. And the contract basically says that whenever they vote in an election, that they will put the issue of their safety and guns as the only option before they consider anything else. So hold your parents, all you parents, we play a role in fixing this going forward, and we got to get it done for these little guys. So thank you.
I'd also like to let it be known that I will be marching on the 24th.
Thank you, Cody. Thank all of you for coming here tonight. Thank you for staying, put up with the parking. Thank all of you who've taken the time to testify and question. And will you please join me in thanking Fred Guttenberg and Ted Deutsch for coming in before.
Thank you, everybody.